I pulled out all the black ones down to my stitch marker. I pulled out all of the colored ones and put a stitch marker in. So I'm going to push this through to the front so I can pick up that stitch first. And again, I'm going to pick up this back stitch and then the front stitch afterwards. And alright, slip stitch this guy. And then, so what I'm going to do is for every stitch, I'm only going to pick up, I want probably 2 or 3. So I want 2 stitches of every color. The smaller stitches, 2 of them are about the same size as the larger one. So, you know, if there's 5 stitches, there's going to be a 2 and a 3. If there's 4 stitches, there's going to be 2 and 2. It kind of depends on what you've got going on with your colors and how it knitted out. But so I'm going to pick up the first 2, and then you're always going to pick up the same number of black as you did for the color in the back. And just make sure you don't get any black ones, sneak it in there. And so then we're going to go all the way up this way, doing 2 stitches of every color. I'm sorry for all of the background noise. We are putting down new flooring in our main level, and my husband is working right outside my office door. So our puppy Oliver, he's a little 5-pound Yorkie. He normally he doesn't want to be away from me, but sometimes he just doesn't want to be behind a closed door. He likes to have free roam of the house. We got him the day that the COVID stay-at-home order was passed here in Colorado. And so we've been home with him every single day since we've had him. And I think that has made him a bit on the spoiled side. Okay, so when I'm doing this and I have a row that has 5, I don't know, personal preference, but I always do 2 stitches first and then 3. I don't think it matters whether you do 3 first or 2 first, but I would say just try to keep it consistent so that the braid kind of has the same shape and feel. I think that probably will give it a nicer look. And then remember to always pick up the same number of black rows that you had colored, or whatever contrasting color you decided to use. I think there's a ton of options and with this style, and I think it would look really pretty with lots of colors. Oops. Okay, so right here I missed a stitch, I think. Did I? Let's see. I did. So it looks like this orange one, there was only 4, and I picked up 3 in the first, and I only have 1 left. So I'm gonna drop that one and undo it and go back and only pick up 2. I think that the braid will look kind of uneven if we have a row of 3 and then a row of just 1. So I'm gonna fix that. Oops. And do black in between. There we go. The only saving grace today to my children interrupting me and waking up very, very cranky from nap is that I ended up making a couple pom-poms to possibly go with this little guy. So I have to decide whether I want the purple or the rainbow. I can't decide. that was my project while they were sitting on the couch with me. Hopefully those are in view. I think they are. Yeah. So I gotta pick which one. The rainbow one's really pretty. It's got all sorts of colors in it. Purple one's just fun. I just got both of those furs the other day, and so I was excited to finally get a chance to use them. So here I've got a lot of stitches left, you know, because the last one had a bunch of green in it. So I have two more rows of color. So I am going to make sure that I get 4 stitches out of those. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So yeah, so I can do, let's do 2 in the first one, and then the rest of them is 3. I think that'll work out perfect. Alrighty. Oops, make sure if you do happen to split that yarn and grab some of the contrasting color that you don't pull it through like I just almost did. And also try to make sure once you get to some of the larger blocks of color that you're grabbing these in order. And you're not skipping over any. I've done that a couple times and had to pull out my whole braid and start on over. So, all right. So our last one here. Make sure I leave that pink there. Okay, so this is our last one here. What I'm gonna do is put that larger size stitch marker in there again to hold that guy. Okay, so now you're basically done and you can close up your beanie. But remember, because we put waste yarn in around the top, you are gonna want to go around and pick up all of those stitches. Now, I like to go around and pick up the yellow with the yellow and then do the same for the black, just like you would if you were picking it up off the machine. Then once you have that, I can show you how to do both the messy bun closure and then the closure that I like to do that's a little flatter for the pom-pom. So I'm just gonna go through, I'm gonna take my tail of the color and the black, and make sure when you're doing this that, so the color's pulling from this side, I don't want to come and pick it up in that direction. I want to continue the circle around. So I'm going to go from here around in this direction. And when I get here, I'm going to pick up what I'm holding with these stitch markers with both colors, just for a little extra security since it is holding a lot of stitches. And then don't forget the single stitch that's in between them. So I can show you that with the colored yarn. So like I said, it's coming from this side, so we're gonna go continue in the direction of the circle. Make sure that you don't grab any of the waste yarn in there while you're pulling these stitches up. If any of them did kind of sink down into the stitch below it, you can always let's see, you can always just grab the waste yarn and kind of tug it up, and it'll pull it up so that you can really get your needle through it. Sorry, it's easier if I do it in this direction. Okay, so I'm gonna go through and pick all of these up, and go all the way around. Because it's really long, I try to grab as many on there as I can at a time. And then you can get to the braid. So when I get to the braid, what I'm going to do, oops, when I get to the braid, I am going to, uh-oh, my stitch marker dropped off, but it doesn't look like I dropped anything. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick up all of the stitches that are in this braid, okay? And then I am going to pick up this stitch in between here. And then I'm going to go through and pick up this, everything off of this stitch marker, and make sure I try to hold it in there and make sure that I haven't split any of the stitches. I'm going to put the stitch marker back on here just so when I do the black, it's obvious and easy to find. I'm going to go through these braids with both colors. Okay, you guys, so I was so distracted with my kids and my dogs before that I didn't realize that when I do the beanies, with the pom-poms, I don't pick up the stitches like that. So I am going to show you how to close these for the messy bun beanies first, and then I'm going to take this out and redo it and show you how I close it for a regular beanie with a pom-pom. So that's why I still have my waist yarn in here on both colors, just because when I pull those out, I don't want to drop the stitches. If I was doing this truly as a messy bun beanie, I would pull this waist yarn out at this point. And so for the messy bun beanies, what I do is, let me see if I can get this pink out of the way. Okay, so I take my tails. Let me just make sure you guys can see this. I'm trying to do it zoomed in so that you can see the details. Okay, so I take my tails and I line them up so that the stitches, the first stitches on both the inside and the outside match up. And I will put, oops, sorry, too much craziness going on around here. Okay, so I'm going to put both of them onto a needle. And for any of you who have little kids, I'm sure you can relate. I started making this video at nap time, and it is now bedtime. With all of the disruptions and everything else, I kept getting pulled away. So I am forever grateful that I can pause and resume when things calm down around the house. Okay, so I take both of these and I'll put a hair tie in here. And so I'm going to put them through the hair tie. And then I put them, let's see, so we got the stitches lined up, and I will start going in between kind of pulling up the yarn that we wrapped through all of the loops. So I'll put it through there, and that will secure my hair tie in there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing that all the way around, but I don't do it in between every single stitch, because when I've done that, I find that it holds the hair tie in so tight that it almost stretches this out, and so the elastic is kind of gone from the hair tie. And if you notice on this one, it has that stretch to it. And so what I did on this one is I do every other stitch. So I keep going through the hair tie, and then I don't go in the next one, I go in this one. So I go every other stitch all the way around. You don't need to worry about pulling this too tight when you start it out. It will start to pull itself in as you get down there. And then when I go through the braids, I again make sure to go through both of the loops on the braids so that they kind of are secure on there. And then when I get, I'm trying to find my knot on here. I guess it's a good thing the knots are kind of hidden, but when I get to the end, I will kind of make a knot around the loops that I made and then go through another and make a second knot. So I kind of knot it 3 or 4 times like that, and then just hide the yarn in between my layers. So that's how I do the messy bun beanies. For the regular beanies with pom-poms, I actually don't pick up the stitches the way that I was showing you in here. So I'm going to really quickly take these out and have this top row of stitches just be on that waist yarn that we have in here. And the way that I pick these up, I can't remember whose video it was that I saw this method on, but it was a video and they were making a little beanie for a stuffed bear, I think. So it was a single layer. So I've kind of made a few adjustments to it because obviously these are double layered hats. But basically you go around twice. So you go around and you pick up every other stitch, and then on your second pass you go up and pick up the opposite one. So normally I do the evens and then the odds. With having the braids, it's really important to make sure that you're not missing any stitches when you're doing it like this. So I'm going to pull this yellow out and I will show you what I mean. It's kind of a pain to pull the yellow out when I make the tail so long, but it's a necessary evil, I guess. Oops. All right, so just be careful when you're pulling them out of the braids not to dislodge anything there. Hopefully you won't be having to pull them out because you won't make the same mistake I did. Alrighty, I think this is it. So okay, so you still want to go around in the same direction that we did before to make sure that we're following that. And the reason for that is because that'll allow you to really tighten up the top to make it a good closure. So we're gonna put oops, it looks like my watch is dying, so I won't be able to watch and make sure you guys can see this anymore. Okay, so we are going to pick up every other stitch. So this ends on an even one. This is, you know, the 46th stitch. This will be the first one. So I go into number 2, number 4. Normally I do this when it's still on the machine, but because of doing the drop stitches, you can't really do that. So it's nice to have the waist yarn in there to allow you to really see what you're looking at. So I'm just picking up every other stitch. You want to keep the tension on, you know, the stitches that you've picked up pretty loose so that you can see everything for the second go around. So don't pull it tight yet. Oops, I went into 2 in a row. It is just one of those days. All right, so every other stitch, and then I know the math isn't going to work perfectly on the braids because we have 3 stitches totally dropped. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that on both you know what, now that I'm thinking about this, I only want the braid, oops, I only want the braid on the outside closure, I don't want it on the inside closure. So for your inside color, when we're going around and picking every other stitch, don't pick up the braids. Sorry for that confusion. I haven't done it on this particular pattern. This is my first time doing it, so. Alright, so we're going to keep going around every other stitch until you get back to where you started. And then, oops, that looks like it. Okay, so we are back at the beginning. Just for my own sanity, I am going to do a second loop through this first one so that my tail starts at the same place as it normally would. Now I'm going to go through and take my green waste yarn out of this row. It should pull out pretty easy. And I am going to do the same kind of pickup on the black. So because we hadn't taken the black out, I'm gonna, from when I showed you how to do the messy bun beanie pickup, I'm going to take this black out again, just like I had to on the green. This is the last stitch. This is the first stitch. So we're going to skip one. We're going to go into two. And we're going to do every other all the way around. And then when we get to the braids, I know it might not be perfect. Let's see where, to do. It's not going to follow the every other exactly because I want to make sure we're picking those up with enough security so that they don't droop. So I'm going to pick them up in both times around. That's all of them. Okay, I'm going to go back through stitch one again so that my yarn is in the same place as it started. And pull out this waste yarn. Maybe. Sometimes I get stuck. now I'm going to close my inside first, and I normally flip it inside out for that. So when you're pulling this tail, remember that you have 2 rows. So you don't want to pull it really tight off the bat, or you're going to not get the inside row tightened as well. So I try to pull it a little bit so that I can see where it's starting from on that inside row, and then pull the inside as tight as I can, and then tighten up the outside. All right, and I don't know if you can tell, but I just think it's a little bit more pleated evenly and a little flatter than what you normally get through the normal closures. So I will then, let me shorten this tail so it's easier to work with. I'm just gonna make one really, one slip knot on here. Not really that it's gonna, hold it permanently forever and it's gonna be the tightest knot, but really just so that it doesn't reopen itself while I'm working on the other side. Make sure that it's as tight as could be. Pull that guy closed. Okay, and now I flip it right side out. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So pull it so that we can see where that inside row is really starting from. And then pull the inside. I think I got it right. Pull that inside as tight as you can, and then pull the outside secure. All right, so I'm gonna do a similar slip knot on this guy. Looks like I have some pink fuzz in there still from my waste yarn. All right, let's just do a really quick little knot to secure this guy in place. Make sure it's as tight as it can be. Pull this closed. Okay, and now I'm going to take this tail, put it through the center here, and then I want it to also go through the center of the yellow. Normally if you pop it inside out, you can make sure that wherever you're poking through is the center, and if it's not, you just kind of try again. All right, there, I got it through the center. So I pull that black yarn through, and now I'm going to tightly knot these 2 together so that it holds the top and the bottom as close as they can be. Maybe I'm a little crazy about my knots, but instead of just going through it once, I find that if you go through twice, you get a knot that's a little bit more secure. You have to be a little careful when you're tightening it to make sure that it doesn't pull out. But if you do that, I find that they kind of hold a little bit better. And then I do it one more time because I don't want this to be where my hat loses its self. All right, so now that I've done that, you're really pretty good. You can do it one more time if you really are obsessive about your knots, which I might be. It's just one of those things. And then I'm going to tuck these into the hat in between the 2 layers and kind of hide them in there. And then we just put on our pom-pom, which I still can't really decide which one I want. So hide this guy in here. I like to try to make it go down somewhat far down the hat, just so that my tails aren't super short, just in case something happens while I'm putting the pom-pom on, or I don't know, if I needed to some reason retie something, I would have enough of a tail hidden in there that it's long enough to work with, right? But it's not something that's gonna be shown. All right, so now we have our finished product. I think it looks pretty cute. And then we're gonna just add our pom-pom, which, let's see here, purple. I'm probably gonna go for the rainbow, but I think the purple is really cute too. So, you can, you know, I make my pom-poms with upholstery thread, and I do it with 4 threads together so that when I tie them off, they're pretty thick and I can just use this. I find that the upholstery thread is a little bit stronger than the embroidery thread I've used. I've pulled embroidery thread so tight with my knots that it definitely has broken. So that's what I use. You can just put it through the top, tie it on, make it a permanent attachment. If you want to use a button, you can, and that way, if you know whoever you're selling your hat to wants to take the pom-pom off so that they can wash it, it makes that a little bit easier. Let me grab a button really fast, and I will show you how I do that. So I got a package of a million buttons off Amazon. They came in this cute little box. For these, I normally will see if I can grab one that only has the 2 holes because I only have 2 threads. It's not really a huge deal. It's just kind of a personal preference. Size doesn't really matter as long as it's bigger than whatever hole was left. Because of the closure we use, that holes are actually really pretty small. So you can use probably this size button. If you want to use a larger size button, you absolutely could. Or really whatever works best for you. I think I've probably used most of the ones that had those super small buttons. I've got a couple that have these really big holes if I needed to put a wider thread in there. So I'm just going to use this guy. Let me grab a different darning needle so that I can have one that'll go through the button. And I'm going to finish this hat up. And then I know a lot of people were asking me what these parts look like when they're actually worn. A lot of people are doing that Fair Isle pattern on the hat, and it's really, really pretty when it's off, but when you put it on, they get a little stretched out, and some people don't love that look. So I will snap a picture of the messy bun beanie on so that you guys can see what that looks like. So I normally don't go straight through the center of that hole. I normally will try to go on either side of it just to try to secure the layers of the hat together a little bit tighter. So I put these through opposite sides of the hole. Oops. And I can do another video later of how I make my pom-poms for anyone who's curious. I just got this rainbow fur and it's gorgeous. But it's funny, you know, some fur, the different fur all has different piles. So this was made from a 5x5 square. This was made from a 6x6 square. They actually come out pretty close to the same because this just has more fur on it. Alright, so I pull my strings through, flip my beanie inside out. And then because of the way I have these knotted, you really can, you know, if your customers don't have darning needles or all the fancy tools that us crafters do, you can really just pull it through. That's why I like to use the thread that I'm using. It just makes it really simple for somebody to be able to detach the hat, wash their beanie, put the pom-pom back on if they don't want to bother with washing the pom-poms. I have washed the pom-poms because I have little kids and they get things really, really dirty. and one of my dogs likes to play with them like they're dog toys on some of the beanies that I've made for the kids, and they leave them laying around the house. So I don't recommend doing it every time you wash the hat, but if you know you drop it in mud and it gets really dirty, or it was in a dog's mouth or something like that, if you wash it with the baby detergent Dreft, hand wash them. Once they are, you know, clean, I then will kind of brush all the hair up around the ball of the pom-pom, lay them flat to dry. Once they are totally dry, then you can kind of fluff them with a warm blow dryer or a slicker brush that you can, most of the time you can get those at the pet store. Mine looks like this. It has a little pearl fuzz in it from when I was making that pom-pom, but those brushes will do a really good job of fluffing that pom-pom hair. Shake it out and it'll look brand new. So again, I put my string through here twice. I find it holds my knot really well when I, you know, before I tie the second one, and that way I can get a really snug fit for the pom-pom on top of the beanie. And then you can tie a second knot, or you can just put it in a bow. Normally I will try to put it in a bow. I'll probably make these a little bit shorter after I finish this video because they're quite long right now. Normally I will only leave them as long as the bow so that they're just at the very tail ends there, but for time's sake, this is what the finished beanie looks like. It's pretty cute. You know, you could wear the braids on either side of your head, just depending on how you put it on. I like them over on this side. That's just me. So that is that one. Here is the messy bun beanie, and then I'll turn the video off and take a picture of what they look like on for everybody so that you can kind of see that too. If you have any questions, shoot me a message. I'm happy to respond and give any details that maybe I've missed. If you know there's any other videos you guys would like to see, just let me know, and I'll gladly make some more. And please subscribe and leave me a comment and let me know whether you found this helpful or not. Thanks everyone.